garden until this weekend when it's a little warmer. But my buddy was looking at my garden from a social distance, and they saw that we had some wild leeks and she wanted to harvest them. So she's gonna be leaving today. So if you see that it's different starting, it's because we got rid of some wild leeks. Welcome back, Camp Minnesota. It is a little bit later. I had to change my coat because it got really cold. But as you can see, we have a transition in the garden and we have a bucket of onions. So this is what they look like right now, Camp Minnesota. And it's a wild leek, not an onion, my pal was to say. And we're gonna use these to pickle them. So, hey Camp Minnesota, I'm back. I have my gardening hat on and I got a garden. So you know what that means. I'm gardening. So today I am going to show you how to remake a garden that might have overgrown. I did show you earlier my how it used to look. It used to have a lot of wild onion and leek in it. So we harvested it and it tasted super good. Make sure before you eat anything from your garden, you get a trusted person to look it over for you. Or else I wouldn't have eaten it if I didn't know what it was. So now I'm going to begin the process of realigning this wall. So as you can see, the barrier between the grass and the garden is fairly not even. Over here especially, it seems to have fallen over. So I am going to begin making the barrier proper again. So I'm gonna start loosening up my wall here. And I'm going to, I only have one kind of shovel, so it makes it a little harder. It helps if you have the proper tools, but oh well. I'm going to loosen it up so that it's easier for me later. I'm gonna loosen it up so it's easier for me later to realign them. So I'll see you after. If you guys don't have any barrier between your garden and lawn, that's okay. You do not need that in order to do a garden. Just skip ahead and I'll show you how to get rid of your weeds and how to till your soil. See you later. Hey guys, so I finished loosening, well I loosened, then I actually took them right out, all my patio stones, and holy smokes, whoever put this in, as you can see how it's dirty on the bottom and clean on the top. They had half of that patio stone in the garden, and that's super cool, and it would prevent the roots from growing into the garden or vice versa. But I love these patio stones, so I'm going to actually mix it up. You don't always have to do what someone else did before you. And that's the same with you guys. If I'm doing something you don't completely like, mix it up a little bit. That's totally cool. I'm gonna flatten the ground later, and I'm actually gonna clean up all these stones and put them flat on the ground so that way I can do chalk on them later. I don't have any chalk right now, so I'll have to go find some, or maybe I'll use a rock. Anyway, so the next job on my to-do list is digging out all of these little plants right here. So you see this? Someone tried to cut it at the stump, and that's an okay technique, but as you can see, it's still growing little suckers from it. I love this plant, but I don't think it's gonna work well in the garden. So I'm going to start digging it up. And that might seem like a lot of work. But I already started, because there were some that were connected to the patio stones. I don't know where I put it. So I already started, oh, right here. Started making my pile. I already started digging them up, and a lot of them are pretty dead already, so they just kind of come out of the ground. So don't be discouraged. Also, as you do this, I think it's a good idea to pile all of your stuff. I already started my little pile, just so cleanup later is easier. This is also a good time to clean out the leaves from underneath other plants, and then this will allow water to get into the root system, because right now it's just sitting on top of the leaves. I don't have mulch, but if you have mulch, it'll make it easier for water to stay in, keep the water, keep the soil moist. If you don't have mulch, that's totally cool. I don't either. So let's begin that. So if you have any plants, like for my example, I have this plant here that's been cut a lot. I'm gonna begin digging it up. So let's see how we would do this together. So I got this, and I don't really know, so I'm gonna start loosening the soil around the plant. And then this way, it'll make it easier for me to get the plant out. So as you can see, it's starting to, oh, it's a hardy root. So I'm gonna continue this for a while and keep prying, and don't give up. And you don't keep working in the same spot, go around. What's this? Hey, this is an old onion plant. Cool. So many treasures in the garden. Oh my gosh. And then you can make a little pile of soil. So I'll keep going like that, and I'll meet you guys when I finish. I'm gonna continue. When I'm done this one, I'm gonna go all the way through the garden and get all of the plants I don't want. So I'll see you soon, okay guys? Hey, Kim and Tongue. So come closer. So as you can see, I've been busy digging this whole garden up. We're seeing quite the transformation. The thing about gardening is it might look worse before it gets better. So you gotta hold on to hope. So as you can see, I'm working really hard on this here root. And instead of me digging just around and thinking the root's gonna go down, that's not always the case. So you have to follow the root and kind of dig along with it so that you don't do more work than you have to. It's okay when you're gardening if you get dirty, it happens. If you don't want to get dirty like this, feel free to put on gloves. I also have my working pants on so that I stay safe. And as you're working, just follow along the root. You want to make sure when you're digging to keep the soil right beside you so that you are able to fill in your holes right after. If you throw it onto the grass, then it might be harder to recollect your dirt. So keep it right beside you and just keep following the root pattern. And don't give up. It might seem difficult, but you just got to keep going. As you go, you might find other roots along the way, and you can also tear those up. And remember to throw it in your pile. And when I get all this out, I'll teach you how to get rid of the smaller little plants. Okay, Camp Vanessa Tongue? See you soon. Okay, Camp Vanessa Tongue Connect. As you can see, our whole garden has been uprooted. But not yet has it fully been uprooted. We have one more root to uproot, and I'm here to do it with you. This is the final one, the final Kraken. Ah! There we go, Camp. We did it! Alter this garden anymore. We're gonna quickly do the edges and find all of the little greens. Because all the roots that take water from the plants I'm going to take is not good. Although it's just a little bit of root, this little bit of root is taking away water that the plants we're going to plant need. And even if it's already rooted out, we're still going to take it away because sometimes plants can reroot themselves in the soil. These rocks we are going to keep because they give valuable minerals to the soil. So because we need them back in the soil because the plant that we plant will use it to stabilize themselves in the ground, and we'll also use it to take minerals from, and the soil needs it. So keep these in your soil, they're super handy. Slowly removing little roots from the ground. Slowly but surely. If you need a little shovel, use a little shovel. Okay, Camp Vanessa Tongue? I'll see you when we have no more green in our garden. So, as you can see on this area, we got rid of a lot of the roots. Now, might be still some roots, but we are going to till the ground. We're going to grab soil and move it up. We're going to till. At the same time, it would also be a good idea to fill in the holes that we have created. Okay, so we're going to till the ground, till, and then at the same time kind of put the soil that used to be in the hole back in the hole, and eventually you'll have a nice flat brown garden bed. Cool, I'll see you on the other side. As you can see, we have done a lot. All of the tilling is done. All of the greens. I understand that it looks like the roots are still in, but believe me when I say the wind is blowing them in there. And it's not my fault. It's a very windy day to be gardening. So now I'm going to take these patio stones that we had before that I took out earlier, and I'm going to place them flat along the ground to create a border between the grass and the garden. This will prevent the grass from growing into the garden and also allows me to have a fun little path to step on. When we do this, we are going to make sure that, I'll do it nicer when I do it, but we're going to make sure that it's flat up against the beginning point, and we're just going to slowly make sure our hands are not in the place where we can get hurt and make our way along the garden edge. And this will create a nice defined garden. Okay? If you don't want to do this, that's totally cool. This is just some people's preference. But like I said before, whatever you want to do in your garden is totally cool. So as you can see, we are slowly putting our bricks in, and we have decided our placement of our plants. So it's super important that you know where you're going to put your plants and how big they're going to get before you plant them, because you want to make sure that you have enough room in order to have a great living condition for your plant, and you also like the placement. If you put something somewhere and you're like, darn, I should have put it somewhere else, if you just keep it out of the ground, you can make those easy switches. Also pay attention. So this is a very sunny spot. The sun is always out. So we made sure we got plants that like full sun, because this boxwood, for instance, is going to have a lot of sun. Meanwhile, if we were to plant somewhere in the shade, then we would need to get a different plant that likes shade more. Okay guys, so I'm going to show you how to plant a plant. Now, I would like to note that depending on the plant and depending on the soil and depending on every different situation, this might be different, but I'm going to give you a nice idea of what you should do. So, come a little closer, cameraman. So I have my plant. It is a boxwood and it needs full sun. Now I understand right now I'm in the shade, but it is around 5 o'clock, so it's always going to be shady around 5 o'clock. But for most of the day, it'll be in the sun. So I'm going to dig a hole about the size that fits this plant, okay? You want to fit it so the whole box about would fit in it. You're going to take it and you're going to put the soil right beside so that it's easy to put it back in later. You do your digs. Okay. Now let's see, is that big enough? Maybe a little bigger because the bucket has not yet fit in the hole all the way down. There you go. So now you can see how the soil in here matches out here. So that should be okay. So now you want to be super careful. You don't want to pull the plant out like this because you can damage it. We're going to do our best not to hurt our fancy little boxwood. You're going to flip it out outside. Sometimes you have to give it a little tap and sometimes you might have to give it a little squeeze around. But this one came out really nice. Now, as you can see, come close, come look at the root system. Super cool. So this is the roots and these are the shoots. And these roots have been in this box for a long time and that's why they're all crumbled around, but they will soon enter the rest of the soil. If you feel comfortable, you can press around to make the roots go into the soil more, but that if you don't do it properly, you can hurt the plant. So we'll just leave it like this for now, and we'll put it in. And I'm going to leave this little bit because it's gonna act as, I don't have mulch, it's gonna act as mulch and keep the water and the soil nice and moist. So now we're gonna push all of this back in. We're gonna take this little card before I lose it. I'm not gonna keep it on the plant just because it can hurt the plant after a long period of time of being on there. It can actually grow into the plant if we're not careful enough. But I'm gonna keep it just in case I need to remember how much water. So it likes drained soil with water nutrients plants. So it wants to be watered as soon as it's planted, but after that, it wants a nice soil. It can last up to negative 29 degrees. What a resilient little plant. And it likes not at least about 1 meter of space. And that's pretty much what we got here. So we're doing well for this plant, our little boxwood. So now we're gonna make it nice and straight up. We're gonna put all our soil back around that we kept right beside the plant. And we're going to check underneath. We don't want to see any roots at all. So you have to press right down, check to see if you see any roots. I don't see any roots, but that's all you need to do for that. And then we press down because we don't want any water to drain into any holes and collect, because then it could also hurt the plant since it could rot the roots. We're gonna keep pressing down. Keep checking those roots, and then, like it said, it likes to have a nice big drink of water right after a transplant. So we're gonna water all around the roots. You don't want to water on top because we're not watering the leaves. This is where it's gonna get all its sun from, but the roots is where it gets all its water. So, although you might think, oh, I might be overwatering the plant, this is the plant's first big drink of water, most important drink of water, since it's giving it the foundation to live here. So although you might be worried you're giving it too much, don't worry. It needs a nice big drink so that it gets comfortable in its new home. And now we get to name it. So I'm gonna name this beautiful little boxwood Ferdinand. And this beautiful boxwood Ferdinand is gonna live nice and happily. So I'm gonna plant the rest of these plants, and I'll call you back for when I do the rose bush. The last thing we're gonna plant is this beautiful rose bush. Now, I'm wearing my protective equipment, my PPE, and because this guy has thorns. So pay attention, if you're planting anything that has thorns, make sure you're very careful, wear your gloves, be extra precautious, because that guy had thorns and I found out the hard way. So I already read the instructions. This guy likes 2 feet of soil, and then it wants to be watered twice a week before he starts growing. So we're gonna prepare that just for him. So we're gonna dig the same amount of soil, it says. If there's any plastic in your garden, take it out and make a pile. I put my soil right beside. We keep digging. Sometimes it's hard. We gotta do it. And eventually, you'll get to the proper distance down for your plant. And we check. Does it look right? Looks about right. We're gonna keep our gloves on as much as I do not like working with gloves. And we take it out of this. Wow, look at that. And put it in the plant, in the soil. And we put in our soil. We work hard to make sure it's nice and even with the ground. And we make sure that it's important that you don't bury the stems of your plants because it can also create rot. So make sure you only bury the parts that need soil and everything else stays above the ground. And then I forgot my water, but you can trust me that I'm gonna do it. And I've been also putting all the growing ingredients, the growing recipe beside the plants in case I forget. And I did that along all the plants to make sure that everyone's good. So we added our chicken ornament. Paprika is her name. And I would like to thank you guys so much for joining me on this gardening journey. And I can't wait to see the pictures you post in the comments about your gardening journey. Stay hydrated, Vanessa Tongue.